Bonsoir et bienvenue à notre séance du Conseil d'Arrondissement pour le mois de février. Merci beaucoup d'être parmi nous. Je suis accompagné, comme d'habitude, du membre du Conseil, Mme Louise Leroux.
Bonsoir.
M. Benoît Langevin.
Bonsoir.
M. Shahid Tarakjan.
Bonsoir, good evening.
Et Mme Catherine Clément-Talbot. Elles viennent dans quelques minutes. Good evening, and thank you, folks, for being here for the February regular Borough Council meeting. Once again, we are accompanied by Council, as I mentioned, Mme Louise Leroux, Benoît Langevin, Shahid Tarakjan, and Catherine Clément-Talbot, who will be with us. We also are accompanied, as we always are, by our services that are here in the room. And those of you that are watching virtually, thank you once again for joining us. J'aimerais dédier le moment de silence ce soir à nos communautés turques et syriennes pour la tragédie survenue suite à des séismes hier. So I would like to start this council meeting by dedicating a moment of silence to our communities, our Turkish and our Syrian communities here and abroad, who are dealing with such devastation in both those countries following the tragic earthquakes that have claimed now several thousand lives. So that is where we start tonight's council meeting. Merci. J'aimerais aussi demander à M. Jacob qu'on mette les drapeaux en berne à partir de demain matin, s'il vous plaît, M. Baudouin, avec vos équipes. So we'd like to put the flags at half-mast just to recognize the tragedy that's unfolding at every moment in those two areas of the world that are once again tragically hit with another crisis. On était supposé d'avoir le commandant avec nous ce soir. Il n'est pas là. I know, Mrs. Bond, you asked if he was going to be here. Last I spoke to him, that was the intention. So if he doesn't show up here tonight and you cannot contact them directly, please feel free to forward us any concern. I'm sorry? Sure, go ahead, if you can do that.
Because you can't hear me.
I can hear you well. Go ahead and ask it, and if I can answer it, I will. If not, I will relay that message to him. No worries. No. The second one from the right. There you go. Technical difficulties. There we go.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Well, there was another news last night or today, and it has to do with what is the borough doing to prevent or to follow up, but prevent is better, suspicious fires. And there was actually another incident on St. Charles Boulevard.
So that's the question, and I will follow it up with him responding to you as well. But what I can tell you on our end, certainly when there are these types of events, it is concerning. I am, and we are in constant communication with our SPVM, as I was once again this morning with our commander. You have to understand that these types of, if they are criminal acts, the second one, yes, the first one is still being investigated. There's always a concern that somehow they may be linked. And so that was my conversation I had with the commander this morning. Once the first fire did take place in that little strip mall, The SPVM, at our request as well, increased presence, particularly on the main arteries and particularly on St. Charles. And this is why, in fact, the response was so quick following the incident last night, which, and I passed by earlier today, had sustained minor damage, thankfully with the quick response of all the authorities. They are investigating the situation. I was told that they have numerous video images that they're analyzing and will come up with some conclusion to see what the cause of this is, if it's related, if it's random, if it's just a bunch of kids that are creating a bit of havoc in that area. I don't have that information, and the police did not have that for us either. What I do know, and what we do when these kinds of things happen, as is done throughout the island of Montreal, as you've read other incidents in other communities, there is an increased presence by the SPVM throughout the territory. Our role is to certainly reach out with the business owners to make sure what we can do to facilitate, should they have to rebuild or want to rebuild, and this was done with the 12 businesses up the street. And the intent is also to reach out to the owner of Kumon as well and find out what role we can play to try to at least reestablish themselves and make it as easy as possible. It is concerning, Mrs. Bond, I'm not going to lie about it. These things happen from time to time throughout any community, but to have them so close to each other in such a short period of time has us a bit concerned, and I leave it to the competence of our SPVM to be able to identify not only the reason, but the perpetrators, and hopefully put this to an end if this is something that is just isolated to these two cases. So that is something that we're doing continuously every time there's incidents like this. And I will make sure that I will address that question to him as well. So should he come later this evening, he'll address it. If not, I will make sure that if he doesn't do it in the interim, if we don't hear any news, to do that at the next council meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. J'aimerais commencer avec ma rubrique « Quelques informations ». Notre populaire événement grand public hivernal Plaisir d'hiver est de retour encore cette année, au grand bonheur de toutes les familles, le samedi 18 février de 13h à 16h au parc Grier. Once again, our winter day festivities are planned. Jason Richard is with us representing our recreation department. And I'd like to thank him and his team for making sure that not only do they and will they, but I know they always do, put on a great event for our citizens on the 18th of February from 1 to 4 at Greer Park in the West End. And for those of you that know, chaque année, on essaye de changer l'endroit pour donner opportunité aux résidents de participer dans ces secteurs. Et là, cette année, l'année dernière, je crois, c'était à Roxboro. Dans le parc Roxboro. Et cette année, on va aller au parc Grier sur Meloche, à côté de Saint-Anthony. Je vous attends en grand nombre. Nous avons aussi maintenant une nouveauté à Roxboro, dans l'ancienne bibliothèque de Roxboro, qui est maintenant la bibliothèque William G. Ball. C'est un club de lecture à cette bibliothèque. Et on vous encourage d'aller sur le site, trouver l'information. Mais vous pouvez lire aussi un livre suggéré par notre animatrice Linda Holtzman et partager vos impressions avec d'autres lecteurs et lectrices. Je vous dis, c'est une activité très populaire partout, dans n'importe quelle bibliothèque. Et là, on a décidé avec les équipes encore de culture et bibliothèque d'initier ce projet dans la bibliothèque de Roxboro. So we have a reading club at our William G. Ball small library in Roxboro, one that has been part of the community for many decades and one that we continue to provide services, particularly for the local community. And it is a reading club, and books are, of course, recommended and suggested by our animator, Linda Holtzman. And there you can always share your thoughts on any readings you may do, and there will be others as well. And it is a popular event. And we'd ask you to see someone at either one of our libraries or by calling 514-626-1800, and you can reserve your spot for these wonderful events. Prochain spectacle, c'est le vendredi 10 février à 19h à Jerry Robertson. Encore, vous pouvez réserver votre place pour 3,50 $ pour voir Rêve à colorier, qui promet du théâtre divertissant et des chansons hautes voltige. Not sure what that means, but it's going to be exciting. And it's part of the Black History Month, February, as you know. And this is an event that's taking place on the 10th of February at 7 p.m. at Jerry Robertson for $3.50. And there's another one that's planned as well on the 25th of February, le 25 février, le samedi, à 19h30 au Centre culturel de Pierrefonds. Bantu Salsa, that is the one that is for Black History Month. And we thank, of course, the organizers of these events, as it is very important to celebrate all these special commemorations. I've always said Black History Month shouldn't be Black History Month. It should be celebrated year-round and showcase the wonderful talent, particularly in culture, within the community for all of us to benefit from. Un bref rappel qu'une consultation publique en ligne est toujours en cours pour vous prononcer sur la version préliminaire du programme particulier d'urbanisme du boulevard Saint-Charles qui a été présenté le 30 novembre dernier à l'occasion d'une soirée publique. Pour donner votre opinion et consulter les propositions, rendez-vous sur notre plateforme de participation citoyenne Cocorico, accessible via notre site Internet que vous connaissez tous, ou par courriel à l'adresse ppu-saint-charles@montréal.ca. Vous pouvez trouver de toute façon l'information sur le site web et vous avez jusqu'à la fin du mois de février 2023, comme on avait annoncé la dernière fois. The special planning project for St. Charles, for those of you that are aware, is continuing. It's planning and it's a critical path, as was presented on the 30th of November. At a public meeting, you have an opportunity to not only consult what was proposed that evening, but also give us your comments through the citizen platform Cocorico, accessible at our website. And you can always, of course, as I mentioned in French, by email ppustcharles@montreal.ca. And you all have, as we had mentioned last month as well, up until the end of February to submit your comments. Monsieur Tarakjan, vous avez un commentaire concernant le sport.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Je veux souligner l'accomplissement d'une athlète locale exceptionnelle, Elisabeth Moreau, qui a été nommée sur l'équipe de ringuette provinciale du Québec, avec laquelle elle participera aux Jeux d'hiver du Canada 2023 du 18 février au 6 mars prochain à l'île de Prince-Édouard. Elisabeth a commencé sa carrière comme joueuse de ringuette ici même à Pierrefonds et elle a tout récemment agi à titre de capitaine de l'équipe régionale de ringuette de Lac-Saint-Louis U19 AAA. Je souhaite donc féliciter Elisabeth personnellement pour ses efforts et son implication dans le sport féminin qui mérite d'être valorisé et reconnu. La communauté de Pierrefonds-Roxboro vous souhaite le meilleur succès au championnat.
Congratulations not only to her, but to other magnificent athletes that we have in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, and we're very proud of these accomplishments. And every time we hear of them, we try to make sure that we address them at in this forum to allow them to have that exposure as well, but also to recognize not only the work that the athletes do, mais le travail aussi des entraîneurs, des bénévoles et surtout les parents qui mettent les enfants dans le sport, qui changent vraiment la vie de quelqu'un. Bien que nous soyons au début du mois, il est maintenant le temps de prévoir vos activités pour la relâche scolaire. Et nos équipes encore, l'équipe de M. Richard, entre autres, et les employés à notre service de sport, loisirs, développement social, culture, bibliothèque, ont concocté une programmation locale à 2 pas de la maison pour que les jeunes puissent avoir un maximum de plaisir. On parle de patinage libre au Sportplex Pierrefonds, badminton libre en gymnase, ciné-club, spectacle et activités en bibliothèque. Et voyez toutes les activités offertes sur notre site Internet. La période d'inscription est aussi maintenant ouverte pour les camps de la relâche de Pierrefonds-Roxboro en partenariat, comme on avait annoncé le mois passé, avec le YMCA pour les 5 à 12 ans. Et la programmation d'activités se déroulera du 27 février au 3 mars au chalet Ovid T. Batchou dans Roxboro. C'est le chalet au coin de 11e et 11e à Roxboro. Du 6 au 10 mars au Centre communautaire de l'Ouest, qui est le parc grillé, l'école à côté de l'école Saint-Anthony. Et pour s'inscrire, votre enfant, composez bien sûr le 514-687-9622 ou rendez-vous sur le site internet ymcaquebec.org. Our school break is coming up very quickly, and for those of us that want to participate in some of the free activities, certainly you can with the free skates at the Pierrefonds Sportsplex, free badminton at the in gyms, the Cine Club, the movie club, shows, and of course activities in our libraries, and all the information can be found especially on our website. We encourage you to be involved and be a part of the community life. It's a lot of work that goes behind planning all these activities, and we'd like for the folks to benefit from it. We also have our day camps, our winter day camp, our school break day camp that is offered by the YMCA for 5 to 12-year-olds. And as I mentioned in French, February 27th to March 3rd at Ovid Batchou in Roxboro, and from the 6th to the 10th of March at our Greer Park Community Center, which is next, as I mentioned, to St. Anthony's School on Meloche. And if you'd like to register a child to any of those activities, you can call 514-687-9622. Or, of course, through the website ymcaquebec.org. Maintenant, du 13 au 17 février 2023, je vais laisser Mme Louise Leroux parler de la persévérance scolaire, la semaine de la persévérance scolaire. Mme Leroux.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le maire. Compte tenu des dernières années scolaires difficiles, l'année 2022-23 l'est tout autant pour les jeunes ainsi que pour l'ensemble des intervenants du réseau de l'éducation. Nous souhaitons, en tant que Conseil, proclamer la semaine du 13 au 17 février 2023 comme celle des Journées de la persévérance scolaire. C'est une cause qui nous tient tous à cœur parce que les jeunes sont les adultes de demain. Et présentement, on entend souvent, c'est pas facile pour les jeunes de trouver de la motivation nécessaire pour continuer. Plusieurs obstacles se dressent à eux durant leur parcours scolaire. On n'a qu'à penser à l'intimidation et à l'harcèlement. Donc, nous tenons à nous exprimer unanimement et publiquement la solidarité et le soutien envers les jeunes et envers l'ensemble des intervenants du réseau de l'éducation et d'appuyer cette campagne de journée pour la persévérance scolaire. Et cette année, la thématique 2023, c'est l'importance de l'entourage, nos gestes un plus pour la réussite. Et ces journées se veulent un temps fort dans l'année pour un témoignage de mobilisation collective. Donc, on vous invite à porter le petit ruban vert en termes de sollicitation, de solidarité. Et j'invite les adultes qui gravitent autour des jeunes de vraiment là, les supporter puis de les inciter à continuer, dans le fond, leurs études très importantes.
Madame Leroux, merci beaucoup. Aussi, la 29e semaine des enseignantes et des enseignants se déroule jusqu'au 11 février sur le thème « Chaque jour, on mesure l'importance de votre rôle ». Et ce soir, bien sûr, je m'adresse donc à notre personnel enseignant sur le territoire de Pierrefonds-Roxboro pour vous remercier sincèrement du rôle essentiel que vous jouez pour veiller au développement et à épanouissement, je m'excuse, de nos jeunes. Votre travail va bien au-delà de transmettre le goût d'apprendre. Et chaque jour, on peut d'enseigner. Vous prenez soin de nos jeunes pour qu'ils deviennent meilleurs. Prenez le temps de les écouter et de les comprendre dans leur réalité souvent très différente et faites preuve de créativité pour qu'il ait le goût de se surpasser. Pour moi, on a personal note, the 29th, of course, week of our educators is up until the 11th of February. It's a special moment for me as my older daughter is a teacher and an educator, and I know the importance firsthand that not only they have with the children, but the impact they make on children's lives every day. And in my opinion, underrepresented and undervalued in what teachers do in the community. And for those of us that know teachers, and if you don't, and have our kids in these systems, please make sure we take a moment to congratulate and thank all the educators for the incredible work they do every day, molding our society for the future. Monsieur Tarakjan, vous avez un autre commentaire, je crois.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. So, as many of you have heard, we've had an incident on St. Charles Boulevard. I would like to recognize these businesses who lost their businesses, and it's important. It means a lot to them. It's their livelihood, and I hope that they will rebuild and recover from this situation that they're in. It's so unfortunate. As a businessman in Pierrefonds, it's touching. It hurts to see this happen within our community and to these people. At the same time, I'd like to thank the police officers, the firefighters, everybody there who actually minimized the damage that was there. We're very thankful for that because it saved a lot of other businesses, and it's really important to us because, as you know, they are local, they're in our community, they represent us, and they totally need our support when they come back, and hopefully soon. Thank you.
Monsieur Tarakjan, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Et on a side note, you know, we always talk about buy local. We always see posts like this on the internet from time to time where businesses are devastated, and the outpouring of support when this kind of stuff happens. And I always say to folks, if you've never shopped at these businesses before, hopefully when they open, you go and support them. C'est plus que juste un commentaire sur les médias sociaux pour dire « My gosh, qu'est-ce qui est arrivé? C'est triste pour la communauté. » Mais on n'a jamais supporté ces commerces. We have 500 small businesses in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, approximately, small businesses, who are all making a go of it. Mon message ce soir, c'est que si jamais les propriétaires décident de réouvrir, de reconstruire ces commerces-là, de les appuyer, s'il vous plaît, comme communauté, parce que ça prend les commerces locaux pour faire la différence dans une communauté. Monsieur le commandant, merci beaucoup d'être là. On va vous laisser faire la présentation avant qu'on commence avec la période des questions des citoyens. On avait une question d'une madame dans la salle, puis elle va poser la même question après, mais vous pouvez faire votre rapport tout de suite. Merci.
Bonjour à tous, Michael McDermott, commandant du poste de quartier 3. Désolé du petit retard, je pensais que c'était à 19h30, donc je suis présent à l'instant. Rapidement pour l'état de situation depuis le dernier conseil de ville. Le mois de décembre, les fêtes, tout ça est égal opération d'alcool. Donc, juste pour votre information, on a fait des opérations, là, mon équipe et moi, 3 opérations alcool, dont une en concert avec la Sûreté du Québec pour avoir un impact quand même assez important, une bonne visibilité aussi. Donc, ça a été fructueux pour sensibiliser les gens là, à l'importance de ne pas conduire en capacité affaiblie. On a fait aussi dernièrement, avec les dernières bordées de neige, beaucoup d'opérations de déneigement. Donc, les véhicules avec un amas de neige, de la glace sur les toits, on a travaillé beaucoup de ce côté-là pour essayer de réduire. d'augmenter la visibilité. La visibilité, ces véhicules-là, ben, souvent, c'est des accidents envers les piétons et les personnes plus vulnérables. Donc, on a travaillé beaucoup là-dessus. Depuis janvier, j'ai attitré 2 de mes agents comme agents de circulation. Donc, ils sont attitrés à couvrir les plaintes de circulation, à travailler la sécurité routière dans l'arrondissement. Donc, ça, je devrais le maintenir tout au long de la prochaine année, d'avoir tout le temps 2 agents dédiés à la circulation. On travaille en collaboration avec la Ville aussi pour un photoradar à l'école Charlemagne sur le boulevard Gouin. Donc, merci à la Ville pour les modifications qui ont accéléré pour pouvoir mettre en place ça. C'est sûr que les photoradars, c'est le MTQ qui gère. On a une porte, une ouverture pour qu'est-ce qui est les zones scolaires, mais il devait y avoir vraiment des règles très strictes pour pouvoir proposer le projet, ce qui a été fait à l'arrondissement. Donc, on va essayer d'accélérer le processus. Je voulais mentionner les statistiques d'accidents pour l'année 2022 sont sorties, puis il y a quand même une diminution pour le poste de quartier 3, donc c'est une bonne nouvelle. Par contre, on continue à travailler les infractions pour continuer à avoir un bilan aussi bon pour la prochaine année. Au niveau communautaire, je vous ai parlé dans un dernier des conseils de ville de l'activité Fève au lard. On a ramassé plus de 600 $ de dons qui vont être distribués dans le poste de quartier. Donc, c'est quand même bien que ça va être pour les organismes, pour les écoles de l'arrondissement et de l'arrondissement de l'Élusard, évidemment. Pour la prochaine année, je suis en train de travailler sur la patrouille à vélo. C'est une bonne nouvelle, ça veut dire que le soleil s'en vient aussi. Donc, on devrait avoir 2 patrouilleurs à vélo l'été prochain pour travailler les incivilités dans les parcs, etc., tout ce qui est bon pour les vélos. Le point ce soir, criminalité. Dans le dernier mois, on a eu 3 événements, dont 2 incendies criminels qui ont touché les commerces que vous parliez sur la rue Saint-Charles. C'est pas une problématique qui est étendue. On a eu 3 incendies sur la rue Saint-Charles depuis 2020. Donc, c'est pas quelque chose qui est énorme. C'est énormément de dommages, c'est énormément de tristesse pour les commerçants. Je suis tout à fait d'accord. On travaille en partenariat avec les enquêtes présentement pour essayer de trouver qui sont les auteurs de ces délits. Donc, les enquêteurs ont travaillé aujourd'hui sur l'incendie sur Saint-Charles et Pierrefonds au commerce commun. Il avait travaillé aussi sur le précédent il y a 2 semaines. On a quelques éléments d'enquête. On travaille là-dessus. Je ne peux pas vous donner beaucoup de détails sur qu'est-ce qu'il y en est. Aujourd'hui et demain, on va faire la visite aussi des commerces, les voisins. Donc, à ce niveau-là, il va y avoir de la sensibilisation, de la prévention pour les autres voisins, les autres commerçants. Et l'autre événement étant les coups de feu qu'il y a eu sur le restaurant Jasmine. Donc, la journée même, on a fait de la visite de commerce par mon agent socio-communautaire, les voisins de ce commerce-là. Et le lendemain, on a fait des visites de résidents pour augmenter leur sentiment de sécurité, leur montrer qu'on est là. De fait même, j'ai fait la demande aussi au groupe Arrêt d'être présent en soirée dans les alentours, donc avoir une meilleure visibilité. Toutefois, j'invite toutes les personnes qui pourraient avoir des renseignements à venir au poste de quartier, d'envoyer un courriel sur le boîte citoyen ou d'appeler Infocrime. Les 3 méthodes peuvent être confidentielles si vous avez des informations sur les auteurs, mais n'hésitez pas à venir nous appeler.
Monsieur le commandant, merci beaucoup. Essentiellement, c'est une question que j'avais concernant les 2 incidents, surtout sur Saint-Charles, que madame a posé aussi. So essentially, Mrs. Bond, the commander reiterated essentially what I was saying as well regarding their increased presence, the investigation that's ongoing. There's been 3 fires since 2020 on St. Charles. It is something that they're evaluating and monitoring and making sure that they hopefully find the perpetrators, and they're asking for the public, should they have seen something, to be able to report that back to the SPVM. So in a nutshell, that's what the commander said about the 2 incidents. We will continue to be on it and make sure that we can provide any support that we can if it's needed and if our jurisdiction allows, to be able to accompany them and hopefully resolve not only these issues, but have them not happen again. Monsieur le commandant.
Is the one in 2020,
Yeah.
was that closed, or is that still
I don't remember exactly where was the first one, but it was on Saint-Charles.
Mais est-ce que le dossier est fermé pour le premier cas?
Il était fermé aussi. Il était fermé.
So that was closed. I don't know it, mais Monsieur le Commandant, est-ce que vous
There's
connaissez?
probably no links between each.
Right.
We continue to make sure there's no one, but at this point, we can say there's a link between the other one.
Si c'était réglé.
No, I have to make an investigation on the investigation to see that point. Okay.
Non, vous n'étiez pas là de
Non.
toute façon. Et là, si vous pouvez nous donner l'information le mois prochain, ça serait apprécié. Deux items. Avant tout, je voulais juste vous féliciter, Monsieur le Commandant, parce que j'imagine que c'est pas évident de travailler dans ces conditions quand vous avez ces incidents-là, surtout autour des secteurs résidentiels. Mais je vous félicite parce que vous travaillez très fort avec les sociocoms pour faire un peu de outreach, oui, avec les commerces, mais vous l'avez mentionné aussi avec les résidents qui demeurent autour de ces places-là, juste pour les rassurer que vous êtes quand même présents sur les lieux pour trouver des solutions. Pour ça, je vous félicite. Le mois passé, les 2 mois passés, on avait un résident qui est venu nous demander, et la raison pourquoi je pose la question, c'est parce qu'on est en train de voir avec le comité de circulation la configuration, surtout au niveau des feux au coin de Sunnybrook puis Gouin.
Okay.
Mais ceci étant dit, vous faites partie du comité, puis on est en train d'analyser maintenant la situation pour changer les feux un peu, pour donner accès aux gens direction est, tourner à gauche sur Lucerne. C'est pas déterminé encore, mais on est en train de vérifier ça pour, oui, pour le monsieur, mais aussi pour la sécurité des gens, surtout les utilisateurs de Jerry Robertson. Souvent les aînés qui utilisent cette place-là pour le club des aînés. Le monsieur avait posé une question concernant le nombre d'accidents depuis un certain temps à cette intersection-là. Je sais que peut-être vous n'avez pas cette information ce soir, mais si vous êtes capable de trouver l'information pour le mois prochain, ça serait apprécié aussi. Et ça va nous orienter vers une décision qu'on va prendre avec le comité au niveau des feux de circulation, si c'est possible.
Okay.
Merci. Question de la part du Conseil. Monsieur Langevin.
Moi, je voulais vous remercier pour avoir intervenu aussi rapidement sur l'intervention que j'ai faite au dernier Conseil. J'ai vu des gens Mobilité Montréal qui ont émis des constats d'infraction avec comment je pourrais dire, ce qui déborde en dehors des parkings utilisés pour le parc du Cap-Saint-Jacques, qui finalement déborde sur Pilon. Tout le week-end et même la semaine dans des endroits où clairement indiqués où il y a des arrêts interdits. Et aussi, peut-être rappeler aussi qu'une intervention aux abords scolaires, je sais que vous êtes déjà dans des modus operandi, mais je pense qu'on ne le dira jamais assez. On a toujours 5-6 parents récalcitrants qui sont toujours les mêmes, qui se stationnent devant dans des endroits où c'est proscrit, où l'affichage est très clair et qui finalement font en sorte que l'entrée et la sortie des élèves dans les différents milieux scolaires de notre territoire deviennent dangereux finalement par le fait que les rues ne sont pas conçues pour avoir des véhicules chaque côté. Parce qu'ils sont trop étroits. L'entrée, les sorties de ces rues-là sont voilées, puis ça fait en sorte qu'on met la vie de nos jeunes à risque. Donc, peut-être un message aux parents comme ça, en passant, dire respecter la signalisation aux abords scolaires. On fait une grosse démarche actuellement, c'est pas terminé. C'est absolument important. Avec toutes les annonces qu'il y a eu dans les derniers mois sur des accidents véhiculaires auprès de nos enfants, je pense qu'il faut le rappeler, puis il faut se conscientiser.
On est en communication avec les directions, puis je sais que cette semaine, j'avais un agent qui a passé la matinée justement pour augmenter la fluidité aux abords de l'école, puis sensibiliser les parents là, à ce que c'est pas un stationnement. Et c'est vraiment un débarcadère et de le faire dans les normes pour la protection de leurs enfants, mais aussi pour la protection des autres élèves aussi là, qui peuvent traverser entre les véhicules, donc de faire attention à l'approche là, des écoles. Donc, on est à l'écoute de tout ça.
Vous avez vu aussi, Monsieur le Commandant, qu'on avait changé quand même le va-et-vient autour des écoles. Et surtout dans certaines écoles qu'on a vu, Mme Leroux et moi surtout, le débarcadère maintenant est rendu en face de l'école. Avant, c'était un peu partout, là, puis les gens traversaient la rue, les parents souvent quittaient, puis le jeune n'était même pas à l'école. Là, on a changé l'orientation de ces places-là. On a même instauré, comme vous avez vu, vous faites partie de notre comité de circulation, les sens uniques près de l'École Lalande, entre autres. Et ça commence...
C'est un comportement à réhabiliter les gens. Et même, j'avais même un courriel d'une des citoyennes là, qui disait que les policiers faisaient la même chose. C'est un comportement que les policiers... certains, ça fait 18 ans qu'ils tournent comme si, dans ce sens-là. Puis il faut que c'est une réhabilitation comme
Vous avez tout à fait raison. La seule rue à l'époque qu'on avait à Pierrefonds-Roxboro, sens unique, c'était Dresden, entre Pierrefonds et Gouin. Puis là, la ville, l'arrondissement a décidé de faire ça deux sens parce qu'on avait beaucoup de gens qui demandaient de sortir sur le boulevard Pierrefonds de Gouin par Dresden. Mais là, je peux vous dire que ça a pris plus qu'un an avant que les gens, même avec la signalisation, puis le reste qu'on a fait, communication, sensibilisation, la police sur place, présence policière, ça a pris à peu près un an jusqu'à temps que les gens même ont réalisé que la rue maintenant était plus sens unique. So, juste pour vous dire, oui, ces gestes, c'est des changements de la culture. Les gens sont habitués, surtout les gens qui demeurent dans ces secteurs-là. Mais ça va prendre un peu de temps là, pour changer les comportements, comme vous avez dit. Mais on a l'espoir.
Il faut réhabiliter aussi Google Street qui n'est pas nécessairement à jour non plus. Puis justement, la semaine passée...
D'ailleurs, j'ai une question d'un citoyen. C'est pas notre juridiction, mais effectivement.
J'ai eu des livreurs de Uber ou d'Amazon qui ont eu des constats d'infraction parce qu'ils roulaient dans le sens inverse parce qu'ils suivaient les directives de leur GPS la semaine dernière.
Et en plus, ils veulent des bons commentaires sur leur site qui ont livré ça à temps. Madame Leroux, commentaire, question.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le maire. Écoutez, merci à votre équipe, à vous et votre équipe. Beaucoup de présence policière, puis on l'a vu, on l'a constaté sur le boulevard Pierrefonds. Vraiment, là, vous étiez partout, puis on l'a bien vu depuis les dernières semaines. Même un petit commentaire où je me suis fait prendre dans un embouteillage, puis j'étais sur la rue du collège, près du collège Beaubois, puis il y avait des contresens, puis tout ça, puis fait que là, j'attendais, puis bon, j'ai réussi à passer. Je reviens 15 minutes plus tard, tout était clair, tout était beau. Puis j'ai dit, mais mon Dieu, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Et je vois un autopatrouille qui faisait justement là, de la prévention. Je trouvais ça extraordinaire. Fait que continuez votre super travail. Peut-être un petit mot, justement, Monsieur le maire en a parlé, 3e, 4e avenue, mais aussi Jean Briand et Georges Vanier, où on a quand même beaucoup de piétons qui sont là, qui se promènent. Puis, veut pas, on a une bordée de neige extraordinaire cette année. C'est pas nécessairement évident, des petits, des jeunes enfants qui s'en vont à l'école avec des gros bancs de neige. Des fois, les autos peuvent passer vite. Donc, un endroit là, de prédilection, là, surtout le matin, en s'en allant à l'école. Puis, dans le coin là, du boulevard Lalande, évidemment, les gens, là, 3h30, Collège Beaubois, rue Rose, il y a beaucoup de circulation. Il y a 3 écoles aussi à faire très attention le matin, aux alentours de 8h, 8h30. Puis l'après-midi à 3h30, là, c'est des secteurs. Puis aussi, dernier petit point, centre commercial, il y a aussi des gros bancs de neige, mais il y a aussi des jeunes enfants qui finissent l'école puis qui marchent. Puis on a des autos, des fois, là, qui passent quand même relativement vite.
Merci, Mme Leroux. Je pense que c'est bien noté par M. le Commandant. M. Tarakjan.
Ah oui, merci, M. le maire. J'aimerais, parce qu'on ne prend pas le temps de demander la santé de notre policier ici à Pierrefonds, au poste numéro 3. Comment est le moral et après la situation qu'on vient juste passer avec le COVID puis tout ça? J'aimerais juste vous demander si vous pouvez dire la santé de tout le monde, santé mentale.
Bien, présentement, tout le monde va très bien. On a travaillé beaucoup au mois de décembre par la COP 15, par le temps des fêtes. Oui, le temps des fêtes, c'est une période de temps où est-ce qu'on a normalement en vacances. De notre côté, c'est oui, une partie en vacances, mais une partie avec beaucoup d'heures travaillées pour certains policiers, surtout les plus jeunes policiers. Donc, présentement, ben, c'est le début de l'année, on se remet en selle, on se remet sur une direction où est-ce qu'on va, comment on va aborder l'année 2023. Donc, les planifications, les prochains projets se mettent en place pour la prochaine année, mais on entame l'année de bon pied avec l'espoir d'avoir plein de jeunes policiers avec nous au courant de la prochaine année.
C'est fantastique. Merci beaucoup.
Monsieur le commandant, merci infiniment.
Juste un petit moment, j'avais oublié de vous mentionner, on parlait de la présence policière tantôt. Dans les 3 événements là, où est-ce qu'on a eu des incendies, les coups de feu, dans le moins de 2 minutes, je vous dirais que les policiers sont les premiers qui ont intervenu, qui ont entendu, qui étaient à côté. Donc, juste pour vous montrer que vous ne voyez peut-être pas tout le temps, mais on est quand même à l'extérieur. On ne regarde pas la télé dans le poste. On travaille, on est à l'extérieur le plus possible. Puis, c'est le mot d'ordre que je leur donne à mes policiers, là. Soyez dehors, c'est là qu'on a besoin de vous. On a toutes les demandes administratives aussi, de rédaction, de rapports, etc. Mais le plus possible, on est dehors. Puis, les 3 événements font la preuve un peu qu'on était là, qu'on était présent, puis que ça a juste bien à donner aussi. Là. On est tout le temps chanceux dans ces événements-là d'être au bon moment à la bonne place, mais la réponse a été très rapide. Puis avant même que l'appel au 911 soit donné, on était présent.
D'ailleurs, Monsieur le commandant, merci pour d'ajout. Effectivement, j'ai dit exactement la même chose à madame. Et aux nouvelles, quand j'ai fait une entrevue ce matin, j'ai dit exactement la même chose. C'est à cause que vous avez augmenté la présence sur les lieux, que l'SPVM a bien répondu à la situation. Le résultat, quand même, c'est mineur comparé à qu'est-ce qu'on pouvait avoir. Et c'est grâce, en partie, à cause de l'SPVM et le service rapide qu'on a eu ce matin sur les lieux. J'espère qu'on n'aura pas d'autres situations comme ça. Et on compte sur vous et l'équipe pour nous donner plus d'informations, soit avant ou le mois prochain.
Parfait.
Merci beaucoup. Bonsoir.
Bon.
Période des questions des citoyens. Monsieur Saintonge.
Oui, tout d'abord, on a reçu quelques questions, Monsieur le maire. Là, tout d'abord, on a une première question de la part de Monsieur Pierre-Joseph. Est-ce que Monsieur Joseph est ici?
Go ahead, sir.
On vous invite à prendre le micro et la parole, Monsieur Joseph.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le maire.
Bonsoir, good evening.
C'est dommage que le commandant est parti.
Oh. No, I know that, but because you asked your question, Mrs. Bond, my apologies.
Okay, here we go. This is basically concerning George Vanier.
I'm just going to say, sorry, I'm just
Yes.
going to say that normally for a council question period, we allow for 2 questions
Okay.
per subject,
Okay.
regardless of the number of folks that we
Sure,
have.
Sure.
And I'm just saying it for the other folks in the audience, I will try to, because I have the questions here, I will try to summarize
Yes.
all the answers all at once.
Right.
And hopefully for the folks that are in the audience, it will answer some of the questions, okay? We'll see how it goes. We don't have a lot of questions tonight. We'll
Sure.
see how it goes, okay?
Sure, no problem.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I appreciate that the city, with the traffic committee, they reoriented George Vanier and
Yep.
Jean Briand
Yep.
in the direction, in the spirit of safety for the citizens, the kids, the people walking, everybody. But the intention is good, but it took a veered off to the basically two things that are, the stop signs were removed. Now it's like a highway for Ubers and taxis. It's green light straight in the both intersections of the Georges Vanier and Jean-Briand. Those are hot spots. That's one. Two is the signage is not evident on the part of the same story. The signage on Georges Vanier exiting towards Jean-Briand. On one side, there's a one-way sign they put. On the other side, there's nothing. It's just a red with the bar.
Right.
It says new signage.
Right.
Other places in Dollard, it says entrée interdit. I know the committee sent me back an email saying it's evident a red with a bar means do not enter.
Yeah.
But people, they follow their Google Maps. They don't even look at that. They don't even look at that.
Okay.
So that's why we have to put something. Sometimes when you go on the highway, there's signs wrong way or something. Just around that blind curve.
I know exactly
Another
what you
two signs red saying entrée interdite.
Okay.
Because I almost got hit by a perlator truck last week.
Let me address the issues that you've brought
Yes,
so far.
yes.
Okay. First of all, the stop signs were something that we had decided on simply because the way that people now exit Jean-Briand, we believed, again, with the SPVM and the experts that sit around the traffic committee table, decided that those stop signs were no longer necessary. Since you brought it to our attention last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever we were, you and another resident, and somebody I spoke to on the phone, we're still looking at the possibility of adding those stop signs. Not all of them, because one, when you're coming from the parking lot, you can't enter there anyways. You shouldn't enter there anyways.
I know.
Can I tell you that the day after council, I came on site with our Director of Public Works. We walked it. In fact, there were slight modifications that we had to make in terms of the signage.
Right.
We looked at what the possibilities were, understanding the complexity of that small area,
Right.
the 7.3, 7.6 meter road that we have, which eliminated parking in a lot of those sections
Right.
that folks maybe were used to for many years, but we couldn't do it.
Right.
We just couldn't do it by
Right.
law.
Right.
So we made some of those modifications. We're still looking at the stop sign issue.
Right.
Do you know that the people that did not respect the one-way, the ones that I saw,
Right.
were the folks that live in that area?
It could be.
But wait a second.
Could be. There's
But wait
all,
a second.
but also
Respectfully, we
Yes,
do this for the
yes.
safety of the
I
citizens, right?
understand. Everyone is guilty. Yes.
So,
yes.
and the same thing I always bring up at some of the meetings, I say, we always come up with these traffic curbing measures around schools, And who are the biggest, offenders?
Right.
It's the parents of these children that they're telling us the school zones have to be more secure. Not all the time, respectfully, but a lot of the times. And so we know that, as the commander mentioned, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that you said and some of the questions that I have in the audience. I agree
Right.
wholeheartedly.
Right.
Because it's a change not only of culture, but it's a major change in behavior.
Right. Right.
So I hear you.
Right.
The one way we've noted tonight, it's being recorded, so we noted tonight what possibilities we have in terms of adding signage.
Right.
Okay, so that is noted.
Right.
And we're going to look at that again with our team to see if
Yeah.
it's something that we can fine tune to make it a little clearer.
Right.
Okay?
The other side, not the REM side, the
Yeah.
other side,
Yeah.
the intersection,
Yeah.
taxis and Ubers are green light. As soon as they take their fare, they hightail it out of there. So
Madame
that's
Leroux
why-
brought it up with the commander.
Exactly.
Yeah, she
Yes.
brought it up with the commander,
Yes.
and I have as well since our last meeting, Mr. Joseph. I
Yes.
brought it up with him as well.
Yes.
Understanding, of course, that the police can't be everywhere.
Right.
I know that they do have a presence in that center core of Roxboro
Right.
on any given morning,
Right.
particularly.
Right.
And we will continue to ask them to provide that service
The
for us,
other
okay?
major question
Yeah.
is the snow blowing.
Yeah.
It has to be snow blowing
Yeah.
because we've seen the snow blower once
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah.
And when they do come, the parked cars, it's a suggestion. The parked cars that are there, the snow blower takes a wide curve around them, and there's 3-4 car spots that he misses. I know he doesn't want to hit the car.
We have
but
a regulation
Yes.
that
yes.
people are not allowed to park on the street during any snow operations Wait a second.
Yes.
And they're not allowed to park at night.
Okay.
That has been in existence
Right.
for the longest time.
Okay, so that.
I have pictures
Yeah.
from residents that sent me.
Right.
I think there's a gentleman in the audience that's here. I just got it this evening, by the way. Yes, I just got it this evening. And I saw the pictures, all valid points.
Right.
However, how are we going to clean the snow if the cars are parked on the street?
I know,
And then
I
we
know.
ticket the cars, and they say, why are you ticketing our cars? We have to park on the street.
That's where my suggestion is. In the city, okay, I know we're a suburb. In the city, they put the cardboard signs with the pics. Do not park tomorrow morning 7 to 10 or whatever, 7 to 1900. That way they know, or they put the orange things
Yeah.
there on Il Bizarre. They put the orange
But that's
things.
for snow blowing operations.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. That's when we have the snow accumulation between the sidewalk and the street.
Yes.
Your area is very similar to my area. When the street gets narrow enough.
Yes.
And the teams have an opportunity, understanding that we received more snow in January than we have in a long time. When they have the opportunity and the resources to be able to go and do that,
Yes.
certainly they go and they chop the streets like we've been used to in years
Yes.
past. And they do that, and last year I know they did it a couple of times. Now, it does not remove the responsibility from the citizen from not being allowed to park on the street.
Exactly.
The person can't park on the street during snow operations anyways.
Yeah.
So even if we were to put a sign up, I have pictures of a vehicle on that street that's been parked there habitually, consistently, every single day. Now,
Yes.
the next step, you know what it will be? Because we're talking about safety again,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Understanding the complexities in that area. The next step is for us to tow it. Not us. We get the company to come and tow it. Because Mobility Montreal, who tickets the cars, the next option is, what are we going to do? If we keep ticketing the car, continue to ticket the car, the result will still be the same. The street will still not be done properly and will create a safety issue.
Yeah.
So the next step is to tow the car.
But those cardboard signs aren't a legitimate solution so
Well,
that they know?
When we do chop the streets, they would be.
Yes.
But we have situations, and I'm not saying that yours is one of them, but we have situations where folks, unfortunately, use the public road as if it's their driveway. I'm not saying it's the case there.
Yeah.
But I see this throughout our territory, and Mr. Baudouin can attest. You should see how it is. I have other pictures from residents saying, how come I got ticketed?
Right.
And they send me the picture,
Right.
and it's self-explanatory why they got ticketed.
Right.
So I understand, even the police and Mobility Montreal know, we never want to ticket at large. We
Right.
just don't.
Right.
What we want to do is we want to at least sensitize the population to the new reality.
Yes.
This may take some time, I
Right.
have to tell you.
Right.
We had some conversations about parking on the street. There is small places on the street that you're able to park.
Right.
That was kept because the street in those areas is a bit wider. And if it's 7.3, like is the case throughout the territory, 8.5 is the minimum that we could get away with allowing a car to park. And so we've analyzed this closely. It's not me,
Yes.
it's all of us, and the engineers and everybody.
Yes.
Police presence, additional signage,
Yes.
trying to find parking in the parking lot. We talked to Mr. Baudouin regarding that public parking lot that we have temporarily now. We'll see if that's doable. To be honest with you, it's not easy, that one, because that's going to be the one where people will go around and come back out into commercial on 11th there.
Right.
So it's a complicated thing.
Yes.
The flyer we sent out on the 1st and 2nd of February was clear to the point where out of 200 homes, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Baudouin, 12, 13 folks that have called with valid and legitimate
Right,
concerns.
right.
And we're taking all of them seriously to
Yeah.
make sure that we can find some common ground, understanding that there's a law that governs these decisions
Okay.
as well, okay?
Okay. So the snow blowers, is it a contractor or it's a city?
No, it's
Because-
our staff.
Okay.
It's for Jean Briand, c'est d'amour? Yeah. so then
Could
it's-
you mention to them, like, when there's a big snowfall? Because now what happens is the cars, one snowfall, they park a little further. Now it's 8 feet, chopping 8 feet from the street around that blind corner. I'm sure
Yeah.
the emergency services will never be going
Mr.
through
Joseph,
there.
you're right on, and these are things that we constantly, particularly this winter,
Yes.
have to address.
Please, yes.
And try to get them understanding as well that we have hundreds of kilometers of streets.
Yes.
And all the small third-level streets like yours and mine are virtually very similar in terms of the width.
Another major thing.
Go ahead, last
the
question,
lights, 5 street lights,
Yeah.
Jean Briand,
Yeah.
the L,
Yeah.
5 street lights have been out
Have
for
you
a
called
month.
311 for that?
Yes.
Okay.
For a month now. It's
Mr.
been a
Baudouin
month.
is noting it there.
Yes.
Mr. Baudouin is noting it.
They fixed
Yeah.
it's the next day that they changed the signs.
Yeah.
Georges Vanier
Yeah.
and Jean Briand were dark.
Well-
but they fixed Georges Vanier, but Jean Briand never got fixed.
We will verify that.
Thank
Mr.
you very
Joseph.
much.
Thank you very much
Have a
for
good
coming
evening.
tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, second question comes from Mr. James Wills.
Mr. Wills, thank you for waiting, sir.
Oh, Mr. Mayor,
Thank you for coming.
I won't take much of your time up because this gentleman before me's got the same complaints as I got.
That car, by the way, that's a couple of houses down from yours. I hope it's not yours.
No,
That's
no.
parked on the street. Okay. I'm just saying.
But the thing is this, look at, if you go there first thing in the morning, you have an awful lot of kids. They all gotta walk on the street. I've seen a few times where a kid has ran from one driveway to the next because a car's coming up the street. And the street is so narrow, it's one of the narrowest streets in Roxboro. And believe me, you can't park a car side by side, or park a car, and most of the places on it, you can't pass.
Mr. Wills, I know this firsthand, as you know, and Mr. Baudouin, on the 23rd, I believe, near the end of January, they did go by and did some snow operations that widened the street partially. But Mr. Baudouin is taking note of it, Mr. Wills, understanding that it's a complex street. It's always been like this since the beginning of time. We know this. But now this one way on the street eliminates at least 2 cars at the same time on that stretch.
I agree.
So, and I've spoken to a lot of folks on the street that praise the decision that we made because now it allows some place for the children to walk freely unless the street is narrow, like you mentioned. So Mr. Baudouin has noted it. We will make sure that the contractor has that information so that they can take appropriate action, okay? I hear everything you're telling me. I've witnessed it myself. Mr. Baudouin and I were there on several occasions. Madame Leroux and I were there on several occasions as well, monitoring it to see how it's going. Mind you, the times we went, one of the times particularly, there was hardly any cars that went by. But another time, there was a tow truck that came the wrong way on the one-way street, knowing that the signs were there. Do not enter, big signs. The next thing I have to do is put up Jersey there and stop cars from coming in. And this is why I'm saying the police will go on there. They will make sure that they address it. We will make sure that if there's signage that's missing, we will make sure that we make it clear enough, at least in the short term. And then at the same time, Mr. Baudouin and his team will send that information to the contractor to see what can we do for the snow, okay?
Well, there's one thing, like I said, they removed the snow, I believe, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Put it on our driveways. Well, 2-3 years ago, when the city of Pierrefonds was doing it,
20
they
years
did a hell of a good job.
20 years ago.
And now, it's like they're driving down the middle of the street.
I'm glad you tell me this, and we'll make sure we send that information to the contractor. Unfortunately, when we have a contract in some areas, as mine is, they either do a good job or they don't, and if we hear they don't do a good job, we make sure they have contracts to respect. They have fines that are imposed if they're not doing the work properly to make sure they get their act together. And so if that is the case, we will make sure we send that information to them, I promise you, okay?
Well, like I said, I am not satisfied with the way it's cleaned, because what's going to happen when it starts to warm up a bit, all we're going to have is a big rut all the way down the street.
You're right on. You're right on. I hear you.
And we've had it there before where it's been really bad.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
We're going to be hitting, our cars are going to be hitting the bottom all the
Mr.
time.
Wills, you make valid points, and we'll make sure we address them as soon as we can. I
Well,
promise
like
you
I'm
that.
saying, what's most important as far as I'm concerned is that stop sign, Jean Briand, at the corner of Georges Vanier.
Yep.
I see every day, every morning, the kids going to school. And some kids got to stand there and wait for the school bus.
The one
Others go to
direction-
Lalonde School.
Sorry, the
And-
direction as you're going out of Jean-Briand, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
heading out,
Yeah,
like today.
Yeah. I know which one.
I've-
Mr. Baudouin and I saw it, and it wasn't there when we were there, but that's the one what we're analyzing right now. Okay?
I followed I came in from Hornell
Yeah,
behind an SUV this morning.
Yeah.
I went around the corner onto Jean-Briand. As
Yeah.
soon as we turned the corner, there was
off.
a car there, or another SUV, and he had a little trouble getting back. As soon as he got by, he flew down the street the rest of the way, right out at the terrace.
yeah. You know, and to end with this, so we can allow another resident to ask a question. We can only be responsible to a certain point on how people respect the rules of the road.
I
Our role
understand
is to
that.
put safeguards in place to try to minimize the
Yeah.
impact, okay? And the stop sign is one that is concerning to me, the one especially that you go into the parking lot coming
Absolutely.
towards. The
Absolutely.
other one has no relevance because you're not allowed to come in that way anyways.
You're going to
But-
have to slow down going
Exactly,
around the corner anyways.
exactly. But the other one going out into
Yeah.
the parking lot, in my opinion, makes sense, and that's one that would be an easier fix than anything else. So
Very good.
all of those points are well made, Mr. Wills, and I share in some of these concerns.
So I
And-
can
and
count
with-
on you to get it done tomorrow morning.
You've counted on me for over 30 years, Mr. Wills, and you'll count on me again,
Thank you.
hopefully.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I forgot. Whose job is it to fix Google, the direction?
Well, we're going to get to that. Mr. Saint-Onge, est-ce qu'on est correct pour le temps?
We still have 15.
Perfect. Allez.
So the next question
The next question comes from Monsieur Fleming, Alex Fleming.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Fleming. Thank you for sending me the email today. I just saw the pictures.
I just figured I'd just send it to
No,
you.
I got it at
hoping that-
6:20 or whatever it was, and thank you for sending it to me, and I forwarded it right away to my team, so at least they can be aware of it. Go ahead.
Thank you. I
Go ahead.
did, ideally, I wanted to send a letter with it or a big, long
That's
explanation.
okay.
But
I know what the gist of it is.
yeah, I'm here tonight because I'm one of the unlucky ones who've gotten 3 tickets in the first 24 hours, which was really, not what we need to work with or what we wanted or expected. And, we need some help, actually. We need some solutions. We've been here for 22 years, and we started here with a little girl who went to the same school as you did,
Yeah.
and we used to pick them up at the same time and all that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we now have 3 kids, and they're grown-ups, and they have jobs, and they have lives, and we have 4 adults. We have 4 cars, and this is the first, we have a situation, we need some sort of solution. We need to, with the city, we need some help. We need to figure out how we're going to do this, because the signs are also not that clear for us. And I wish the constable was still here. It could have been nice to.
You can always reach him directly as well,
Okay.
by the way.
And the notice that we got as well, there's a little box here, and you're
Yeah.
well aware of it, and there's green and blue here.
Yeah.
And it basically, from what I can gather, it looks like we can park, people are allowed to park between 9 and 21, and as well, it looks like we're allowed to park always. That's
The green is for the residents that have the vignette, which is the little
Okay.
passes that we gave you back
Okay.
then.
Okay.
And the blue is for anybody that chooses to park in that area, okay?
Okay, now, it says between 9 and 21, and then
Yeah.
it says et 21h à 9h also.
right.
So does that mean
Except
you
in
can
the
park
winter.
there at all times?
Except in the winter.
Except in the winter, okay.
In the winter, there has never been any parking overnight, ever. And I mentioned it to somebody else last time. If anybody has been parking there, I think another gentleman said they had parked there for years, buy a lottery ticket, because we've never been allowed to park at night.
Okay.
So it's been really a fluke, if I have to tell you, that there hasn't been a ticket issued. And for many reasons, from November, I think it's the 1st to April 15th, if that's what it is, you're not allowed to park in the winter. And I had a conversation with somebody in the western part of our borough for the same thing, and I said, this has been not only in our community, throughout every community on the West Island. You're not allowed to park at night. So what I tell folks is, it can't be the responsibility of the city to find you parking on a public street when we have severe restrictions because of the makeup of that street. If it was a larger street, like General Brock, let's say, then folks can park on the street if it's not a snow operation and it's not at night because the safety allows for it.
Right.
On your street, you see that, I can show you pictures, I have them all here,
I-
of the cars that are parked down the street on George Vanier that haven't moved or choose not to move, and the condition of the street. So what's going to happen? That resident will move that car eventually, and you know what's going to happen? With the weather we had last week, that clump of snow is ice.
It's rock hard.
So then what's going to happen? The residents are going to stop, non-stop, call us and Monsieur Baudouin and his team, and they're going to say, how come the street is so poorly done? Well then, I have to go back and start explaining that, and that's not really what we need to do, especially when you have children that are navigating. A service vehicle can't get through. I have pictures of the garbage truck and a fire truck trying to get through when there's even one car parked on the street and there's barely any room for anybody. So all of this is for safety. I understand the 4 cars, and that's why during the day we've made concessions according to the width of the street. Now, we're looking, again, it's not an easy one, but we're looking for that corner lot to somehow be cleared. And Mr. Baudouin, I know, has looked at it. There are issues why we think may not be possible, but that's something that we haven't stopped addressing, okay? And again, following tonight's meeting, we're going to address this tomorrow again to see if it's possible to do that. Because if that was the case, then at least you park there and you'll be able to walk, at least.
That's what I was going to bring up, actually.
At least.
Because in years past, when there's been snow or snowy days, and we all
Yeah.
get our cars out of there,
Yeah.
and we you know, we're citizens, we want people to get through to clean. So we move the cars, and we would all drive our cars, park it in that little lot that you're talking about.
I hear you.
And that's what I was going to ask the city, ask you guys if that was maybe an option for us, because again, we have four people. I mean, you know, 22 years ago, how would we possibly know we'd have 4 adults? And it's just that we don't know what to do. We can't not have those 4 cars. My kids, they're grown-ups, they're adults, they have lives, they work,
There's a question, and I don't know if you asked it, sir, but there's a question whether Roxboro Terrace Pool can make their parking lot available. I'm not sure who asked the question, but
I've heard that as well. My wife did, actually. Yeah.
Look, that's their own parking lot.
Okay.
If they want to open it up and clean the snow and make sure that they allow the residents to park there at no charge.
Ideally.
I mean,
yeah.
We can't make that decision, is what I'm saying. If the pool association wants to allow for that, certainly that is a temporary solution. And in the meantime, Mr. Baudouin, again, we'll talk about it. And I know we had come up with our decision as firm because of the different reasons that we knew. But maybe it's something that we can revisit, okay, to make it a bit easier for you folks.
Okay, I'm just going to, if you don't mind, just
Go ahead.
in the past, dear, do you mind coming up? Is that okay if my wife joins me?
Yes, of course.
In the past, have we been allowed to park overnight, summer or whatever, in that parking lot that I'm talking about? Has that been a legal thing? I'm not because
No. Normally there's a curfew in our parks that doesn't allow for vehicles to be parked in the park space. This is a public parking lot that is used by the train users on any given day. Can we? And again, and I mentioned it the last meeting, we don't know what the parking lot, the intersection of 11th Commercial and 8th and Jean-Briand will look like entirely yet.
Right.
We're working with all the stakeholders to define that area so it's secure. Having said that, are we able to say that that parking lot will be for the residents only? That is something we're evaluating. As a matter of fact, we've already talked about it. So that the folks in your area that are restricted because of the site and the width of the street, maybe it could be made available to the folks that live there and their visitors. Knowing that it's not an ideal solution, but at least it's a solution to put your extra vehicles if that's the case. We're looking at that. I can't tell you the answer now, honestly, but that is something that we're evaluating as we speak, okay?
because we've had to now, canvass our neighbors and see if anybody's kind enough to let us park tonight, but then in the morning we have to move it. And I understand, there's a safety issue and it's just, we don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. I mean, we can't get rid of the cars and you know what I mean? And there's, again, we've asked a few of our neighbors, can we park it tonight? And they've been great, but
That's what
You
some
know.
people do. We cannot allow for public parking on the streets in the winter. We
Okay.
cannot.
You
We
have-
cannot. That can't be done. Especially, even in the best of times, but especially in an area that doesn't allow for
Super
it.
tight. Any timeframe, Mr. Bass?
I'm going to try to do it as soon as possible. Mr. Baudouin, we will talk again tomorrow about this issue and see, and once the decision is made, it'll all be communicated to you as soon as possible, okay? This is something that can't drag on, at least so you know how to conduct yourself as well.
And we can't keep racking up tickets.
No, I know that.
you know.
I know that. I know that.
Do you have any last things?
Yeah, so, Mr. Mayor, if there's a citizen that you're gonna, I'm the person, my husband can contest it, I'm the person who's so paranoid in following the rules, okay? So in terms of the signage, it's confusing. I went to the two policemen, and their interpretation of the signage of no parking, of which side, whatever, is completely different of all the residents' understanding. These two police who explained it to me, it's completely, now I am traumatized to park on the street during the day. This is during the day. And on the night that we got the tickets, believe me, it's a benefit. If you can give me benefit of the doubt, I'm aware that it's not allowed to park on the street overnight on the winter, but I thought our street is the exception because, but there is no sign.
No, but it's actually worse than any other street
But
because
there
it's
is,
narrower.
but there was no sign that there, in my brother's street in Point Claire, they're not allowed from 1 to 7, but there was a sign. It says it from
What I s-
November 1st to
Yeah.
April 1st. So that's my understanding in our street. So that night, I stayed at 1 o'clock in the morning, wait for the snow cleaner to pass, park our cars on the neighbor's parking lot. I cleaned at 1 o'clock. Mr. Wills can testify that I'm battling cancer doing that. My husband has to work at the little help I can do for him. And to wake up, we have 2 tickets on our vehicle. You can just imagine. So I went. The signs is so confusing.
Thank you.
They're very, very confusing.
Thank
It has to be explained to every resident in our area because
Well, we sent a notice that, in our opinion, was clear. The night parking
Well, you're
is
say-
something
yeah.
that has been in this community and publicized through our communications department in our booklet, on our electronic boards every season, through the different social media feeds and website. It is constant reminders to the public, and 99% of the time, people know this without putting a no sign, as other communities don't put them anyways, because it's a given that you're not allowed to park, right, at night. Your area, and I mentioned it earlier and I will keep on mentioning it, is more problematic than just that because of the narrowness of the streets. If I could make the street larger, certainly we would evaluate it, we would cost it, we would reach out to you and say, we're going to take 10 feet of your yard, you're going to lose more of your driveway, but the street would be larger, and that way people will have more access to it. But that's not the ultimate goal here. The ultimate goal is that people understand the rules, and if it's unclear again, we will make sure that we reevaluate that form that was sent to you. In our opinion, it's clear enough, but if it isn't, we will walk it again this week on site, and we will try to compare that with the form you got and see, is it clear enough? If people go to their notice and then live on the street, what does it look like? We're going to do that this week and make sure that if that's the case, we take as I mentioned to another resident, we'll make the necessary changes. But you have to understand, we're extremely limited in the interventions we could do on this street. Very limited.
the minute that we were aware that we're not supposed to park, trust us, we don't park there anymore, even on the daytime, because of the signage that is so confusing. You said no parking all day, but when you have a ticket, you can park this time. Like I said, the resident doesn't understand it that way.
Well,
the way
a lot
two
of-
polices
Yeah.
explained it to us the
Yeah.
other way around. So I don't know who to listen, the
No,
resident
I
or the
understand.
police.
I understand you're confused. And again, to end with this, and we'll go to the next resident, and I appreciate you waiting and asking your questions and concerns. But I have to tell you, a lot of the folks that I've spoken to on that street are clear regarding the regulation. However, we're going to still look at it to make sure that everybody understands the same message, okay?
And also, Mr. Mayor.
And you can contest your tickets, by the way.
We will.
You're free to do so.
We will.
Yes.
When we changed the sign, we knew it after we got this February 2nd.
Yeah.
We said you changed the sign around January
Yeah.
5th, whatever.
Yeah.
How is it backwards?
Well, I admitted that last time, ma'am, if you were here or you heard us on the meeting.
No.
Look, if it was an oversight on our part, I apologized on our behalf as an administration. That flyer should have been out before any signs went up. I'm being very honest when I tell you that. And after the last council meeting, when we evaluated on site what was happening, and then I had found out that that notice had not gone out, even though it was ready to go out, it was an oversight on somebody's part. And look, we're all human beings. We assume that it wasn't distributed before the signs went up. That's all I can tell you. And we made sure that in the event that these types of changes are made anywhere else on the territory, that it's done how we've always done it, to inform the public well in advance. And this was one of those cases, and again, I apologize that it wasn't done this way. And I admitted that last month, and since then, we've tried to somehow correct the situation, knowing that it's not as easy as that. But we acknowledge that, and you're right to say that. And that's why I'm saying if that was the case before a notice went out, even though there were signs up, certainly you can contest it. It's within everybody's right to contest. I'm not saying to everybody to contest their tickets if they're guilty, but it's in your right to do so. And then you see how that works out at the end. You know what I mean? So especially that you tell me that even the police, 2 police told you conflicting information. And so maybe that'll help your case. But in the meantime, to finish, our primary concern on this street is to make it safer. And I know it doesn't seem like that now, but ultimately that's the main goal. And we all have children, particularly. We all have elderly folks around us. We all have people that have mobility issues and require us to make these decisions on their behalf, as difficult as it may be for folks that live in these areas.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much
time.
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, folks.
Mr. Mayor, the 30 minutes period is...
Est-ce que je peux avoir un proposeur appuyeur pour... Merci. Merci. Il reste, je ne sais pas combien de questions, mais...
Il y a 2 questions qui restent.
Parfait. On va terminer avec les 2 questions, peu importe le temps que ça prend. Merci.
D'accord. Madame Martha Bond.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, before you get started, these pamphlets were sent around. I never received one. And I've heard of other neighbors that did not also.
Well, Mr. Wills, respectfully, we distributed 200 flyers. I know this for a fact. And if you didn't get it...
The first information I got was tonight.
I honestly, I don't know what to say, because I know that on the 1st and the 2nd, they were distributed not by a distribution company, by our personnel. So if you didn't get it, again, we have your information here. We'll make sure we do another run through the street, okay? I don't know what else to tell you. They didn't go to the people's homes to give it to your hand. They put it, as far as I understand, in the mailboxes. And if yours were missed or you didn't see it, I don't know what to tell you. I know that they were distributed for sure, because I even saw them distributed them.
Yeah, I was there. The first
Yeah.
I saw was tonight.
Yeah.
The lady showed me it.
No, well, what I'm saying is I even saw them physically distributing these flyers in the street. So if they missed a house or 2, I don't know what to tell you. And that's why we have your addresses here. We'll make sure that you get that flyer, okay?
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Wills. Go ahead, Mrs. Bond. I apologize.
Yes, question 1. Item 40 on tonight's agenda, page 9. Removing parking standards. And this has to do with a interim control bylaw on St. Charles Boulevard. In the event that a project is implemented with no surface or underground parking, will the borough require the developer or landlord to write in their lease with the covenant that the leasee may not own a car? This would be needed to prevent the inevitable spillover of parked vehicles into adjacent neighborhoods.
Thank you for the question, Mrs. Bond. And in fact, for this type of facility, without going into detail, The residents of this facility, the majority
Oh,
of
no,
them...
I'm talking about not just St. Charles.
No, but I'm
That's
talking
an
about...
example.
I'm talking about the specific project in question
Well,
tonight.
my question applies to all projects where there's not sufficient parking.
Well, right now, as we're addressing the file for tonight's file, and I can't go into detail with the type of facility that it is, the majority, if not all, the occupants of this facility will not have a car.
Right, and that will be in their lease.
I don't know if that's going to be in their lease, but they won't drive. They don't drive.
Okay.
So we've
And the
taken all that
people
into...
working there.
Well, the folks that are working there certainly will have a car, Mrs. Bond, as is the case in different facilities that you see throughout the island. But the occupants of these...
I didn't say just this
no, but
project.
but we're talking about this project tonight. As for any other project...
Okay, that's where we're going, yes.
Are you done?
Okay.
For any other project, when we get to that project, whatever it may be in the future, we will address that on its own. And if we feel, with, of course, the recommendation of not only the CCU members, but our administrative staff, that it's something that we look at implementing or integrating in a bylaw eventually down the road, should there be a need, then that's something that we will evaluate. But we're not there at all with that right now. We have guidelines and a bylaw that tells you how much parking per lodging, and especially for buildings if there are higher density facilities that are built, and you know this because you attend all the meetings. And so that is something that we continue to maintain. If there are other measures that we put in place, like some of the ones you may mention, well, then we look at that collectively and see if there's a decision that we can take at large. But we're not there. But for the case tonight, because it's 4008, I believe, 4008, there is no concern there, and that's why we're going forward with a project like this, because we know there won't be a spillover effect after with the parking when it goes through the
who might be working there.
Well, when it goes through the normal
where will
process.
they park? Where will they park?
Pardon? Sorry, 4009.
Where will they park?
C'est 4008 ou 4009?
That's the next one. That's the second one.
Yeah, so you're asking the question
40.
Yeah, not 4009. Sorry, it's not 4009.
No, I'm on the top question.
No, c'est pas 09, c'est pas 09. That's not the one she's asking about. Oh, oui. So, for the one that we're talking about, we're confident that there will be adequate parking.
It's page 9.
Yes, it's 4008 that I was looking at. 4009. We feel that there's enough parking in that area for sure.
So they're not going to have parking for people working there?
Are we going to have parking for the people working there? Yes, there'll be adequate parking there.
So actually, there is going to be some parking?
There's parking because it's an extended parking lot from the church, as you know, that has adequate parking for vehicles to park there on any given day and has adequate enough space.
So it's adjacent parking?
We're talking about the building itself, and the occupants in it will not have vehicles. So there's no worry for us that there will be a spillover of parking in that area at all. We're not concerned, Mrs. Bond. And if we're not concerned about it, that we're going forward with a project like this, then I think that you should be at ease with it to know that we're making the right decision.
Well, I've been coming for 20 years, and I've seen the problems.
18, you said.
It's 20 now,
Okay.
2023.
Okay.
And I've seen the parking requirements shrink drastically,
Okay.
and now 0.
So
my
4008
second question,
Yeah.
and it is 40.08
Yeah.
on page 8.
Yeah.
Okay. This has to do with tourist residences.
Yes.
And it was to be the public consultation at 7, and now it's been delayed till the 15th,
Yes.
I was told, to also be held here.
It's not decided yet, but
Possibly.
that file is being pulled.
Oh, actually, it's being,
Tonight it's
Okay.
being pulled, so it pending, of course, the consultation as we had hopefully planned to do. And there was an error in the way it was presented, and so we didn't want it to go through tonight, knowing that we wouldn't have a consultation. Ideally, the consultation should have been at 6:30. and we couldn't do it at 7 because we had already committed as a council decision that the regular council meeting would be at 7.
Okay.
And because we weren't able to do the consultation, I have to absolutely pull it tonight so that we give ample opportunity for folks to.
Okay,
see
well, I'm
the-
still going, I still allowed a second question, so we'll deal with that. So it's something to think about
Think about what?
prior to the adoption of that bylaw.
Well, I don't want to hear an intervention on 4008 as it's not on the agenda right now. One thing-
Oh, no, I don't have to
Go
just address a question to what's on an agenda.
Go ahead, ma'am.
It seems like you're trying to restrict the number of questions.
Mrs. Bond, I'm asking you to ask your question, please.
Okay, good. So, rather than make these changes regarding tourist residences at the municipal level, and there's a provincial law, and it's mentioned in the public notice, why not simply not pass this bylaw, as it is counterproductive for the citizens for a number of reasons. Some homeowners need some extra income to be able to afford to pay their taxes. Also, residents want to have out-of-town visitors, but can't have them in their own house. There's a third reason, decided lack of tourist lodging available in our area. Any rare cases of nuisances, and by the way, this bylaw that is now coming back was also a draft bylaw, I believe, in 2000, possibly 2018, something like that, and I was at those meetings. A lack of tourist lodging here. In rare cases, and one of the justifications for the bylaw was nuisances. It was like one nuisance. Can't any nuisance such as that be dealt with in a more direct way?
Thank you for your last question, Mrs. Bond. 4008 doesn't change anything that is actually in effect right now.
I didn't say that.
All we're doing, I'm stating a fact. If you let me finish, I can finish. The 4008 is actually a file that is already a regulation and a bylaw in the borough. What we're doing, simply because if we do not present this bylaw once again the way it is in its current form, the way it's been before, is come March, we are imposed to allow these types of facilities to be available to the public at large throughout the territory. And we believe, as council here, that we have a place for it. It allows for that zone to have that type of facility there. And we're holding firm in a decision that we made previously and continuing this bylaw. That's all we're doing tonight, is the bylaw that's there is actually being passed again tonight so that we don't find ourselves in March, the government imposing on us that these facilities can go throughout the territory. No, of course, it has to go through the process.
Yes.
It has to go through the process and the registers and all that kind of stuff. By zone.
If you allow me,
Monsieur Saint-Onge, oui.
Mr. Mayor, before there was a first lecture of the bylaw which was adopted, which is being under the consultation process, and then after the consultation process, we'll be able to adopt a second project of bylaw, which will be submitted to the referendum law, la loi sur les élections, les référendums municipaux. Therefore, there's going to be a second advice published in the newspapers, inviting people to sign the registers to see if we need to hold a referendum on the territory. And if we do not need to hold the referendum, therefore the bylaw, the second project, will be enforced at the date it was, I think, and that's under reserve of verification, but at the date of the adoption.
So there's the typical democratic process that will take place after tonight. And then you will be able to follow the process once the announcements go out, and if you feel that you are opposed to this bylaw being continuing, then you will have an opportunity to sign a register, as is the case for many other files that we pass when it's regulations. And then we either go to referendum if adequate number of signatures are obtained, and then we go from there. Yeah. But we're not there yet. Right now, what we're doing is that we're asking that the current bylaw in force continues. But it's being pulled tonight because it's pending a public consultation, as I mentioned earlier.
At that time, there was no online Cocorico platform, and there was no borough-wide consultation except a public meeting here. Why not put that up as a Cocorico and get some feedback from residents?
Well, what we're going to do, Mrs. Bond,
since you have till March.
Mrs. Bond, we're going to follow the proper procedures in terms of how we do these types of regulation and bylaw changes, and you will be privy to all that information, and I hope and I know you will follow it closely and then take the necessary action to, if you are opposed to this, sign. We believe, as an administration, that we have a zone already designated for this, and we feel that it's necessary to continue it, and that's where we are tonight.
So no Cocorico?
As far as I'm telling you now, there will be no Cocorico, no.
Okay. I don't know when this was brought to the attention of the council, but that could have been something that could have, because then if you had support, you know, but there really was one incident I remember, and it was not too far from where I happen to live.
Well, Mrs. Bond, again, respectfully to end, you may know of one incident, but we know of many. So, again, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for your questions, and all of that is noted, by the way, as well. So we'll make sure that all of that is brought to the table when we go through the public consultation of this file. I know Mr. Langevin will be chairing that with other members, and you'll have an opportunity to ask and comment and give that information to them.
Well, he's here tonight, so.
I'm talking about the public consultation.
Yes, but I mean, he's here tonight, so
No,
he's
Mrs.
hearing
Bond-
our conversation.
No, but Mrs. Bond, everything is noted. And again, to end tonight, to leave the last resident poses question, please save all of that for the public consultation. It'll be our pleasure to respond to you accordingly.
Or
okay?
the next council meeting, thank you.
Or the next council meeting. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Mr. Saint-Onge.
Yes, last questions comes from Mr. Greg Piggins.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
It's a good thing I speak French and English because the 90% of this was in French, and it's not that I disrespect French.
Okay.
Je suis complètement bilingue. Mais I was wondering, have we had any change or information yet on that bilingual status for the...
Well, as a matter of fact, we know that I received a letter from the Office de la Langue Française following our resolution that we were instructed and obliged to pass 90 days after the government imposed this. And once this was sent not only to Montreal, to the Quebec government as well, we received a letter saying that our bilingual status would be maintained.
Good.
However, it still has to go through the Montreal administration, and from what we understand, it will go through the proper channels this month. And then once it passes in Montreal Council, then everything should be solidified, and we will continue to remain a bilingual community, or at least be able to provide that information to our citizens in both languages.
Cool.
So it's a good development. We're just hopeful now that it carries through.
That was just a curiosity.
Yeah,
More than
go ahead.
So I'm not going to touch on parking because, again, as I told you the last time, I'm not really affected by it. I'm very lucky. I have 4 spots and 1 car.
Somebody needs some parking spots.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware. I am well aware.
I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you.
There's already talks. It's
Good.
fine. I actually did a quick Google search. It took me about 30 seconds. We can actually modify the street. It's very simple. You simply have to go on Google and tell it to modify the street. So I don't understand why this hasn't already been done, and why we're still getting GPS and Prime, Purelator, Google, Ubers coming up the wrong way up the street.
Look.
I mean, I can see everybody in
the
the council. I'm certainly going to do it right after this meeting.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why, since that time, it hasn't been done.
Well, you know what?
It still doesn't show.
You know what? And to be perfectly honest with you and transparent, nobody thought of it. But that's a good point. And I have to tell you that the help section of Google Maps, people can go in and suggest and recommend and all of that, because we know that. We found that out.
And
we're
is
going to
there
make
there no way for a city
No.
to take control of its actual
No.
page?
No.
Really?
No. As far as we know, no. We're investigating it. After I saw your question, I know the teams were working behind the scenes to try to see if there is a way of doing that. As far as we know right now, at this moment, it's a no. However, we're going to go through the proper channels like anybody else does. For example, when we discover something that isn't right, we go to the help section and we comment on it, and then they make changes accordingly, whatever time that takes. But that's under advisement for sure, and we're making sure that if there's something that we could do on our end and our jurisdiction allows for that, then we're the only thing that we can do, I suspect, again, as you will do, is point out that there's been a change. We can't go and change it as far as I know, because imagine if that was the case. Anybody would change anything.
Agreed. But I would expect often enough, if it's done, there should be a change fairly quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. And this is what we've discovered as well, and we'll make sure that we follow that through to see if it's something that we can sort of help them along and make them understand that that's the reality there. But I hear you.
So my second question is quite simple.
Yeah.
To note, we really didn't receive that paper. If I had received that paper, we wouldn't even have had half as many questions, and it would have been a little clearer. It would have also been really nice to have it before all the signs changed.
Well, the before I explained to you why.
I know.
And I accept,
It's okay.
on behalf of the administration, I accept that responsibility. I'm not going to invent things when I can't. So I'm going to assume, and without saying why and how, these things happen sometimes, okay? And I know this happens from time to time, very rarely, but it happens. As far as the Google that you're talking about, we're going to work on that.
That's
and
fine.
What was the other item? I'm sorry.
So the other item, no, it's actually really simple. Because we were aware and all the information I received that the consultations for the change began in 2018, and there was another consultation in 2019. When will the consultation begin for the way that the traffic will be directed for our area? When should we expect that to come to us so that as stakeholders, we can be present as much as possible to make sure that it is very clear
I don't know if you were living
what
there.
we think?
I don't know if you were living there when we implemented that whole ticket parking system.
I was.
I don't know if you
passed on the
attended,
ticket
but I don't know
because
if you.
I didn't need
I don't know if you attended the meeting, the citizen meeting that I held at Jerry Robertson. And the reason we did that is because certainly we can come up with ideas on how to implement changes in terms of parking on a street. But we felt, not only in your area, we've done that in other areas too. General Brock in that area, we did the same thing. We invited the citizens to a meeting and asked them, okay, what do you feel is the best solution for your area? And it was the folks on your street that had decided, not your street only, but Jean-Briand, George Vanier, had decided that the best solution would be the ticket system, right? Not ideal all the time, but that's what was decided. So I can tell you, when we do make those changes, or when we propose those type of changes, I will make sure that we reach out to all 200 homes in that area to make sure that they attend this meeting, because that's what's going to affect them day to day more than anything else, okay? A traffic issue like this, even if you would attend a street, even if I had folks in the room that told me that, well, they need to park on the street, I can't let you park on the street in a lot of these areas, right? But when it comes to wayfinding out of that sector into the parking lot, the intersection of Centre Commercial, all that information is going to be well identified in advance to have you participate, or at least understand the reasoning behind it so that you're well aware as well, okay? That'll happen.
Do we have a rough timeline?
No. I would like to see that happening, and again, I'd be completely guessing. I would like to see that this year, but I'm guessing.
Okay.
When I have more of a definite timeline in terms of when it could be, I will make sure that the residents are aware of that, okay, without missing out. And again, by you telling me you didn't get your flyer, I'm not saying you did. I'm saying that I witnessed and I know that the flyers were distributed. Did they come to your door? I didn't see your door. But I'm saying that it could be. Was a house missed? I don't know. But I saw them distributing the 200 flyers that they had to in the sector. If they missed a house or two, if somebody took it, put it in the blue box, I don't know. I'm not in your house or anybody's house. All I'm telling you is what I saw and what we were told, and if it was a third party distributing it, then I would say, okay, well, they missed a stretch of street, whatever. But it was our employees.
Okay.
So, again, we're going to validate this and make sure that we get it out to everybody. If we have to distribute them again, M. Baudouin, on va le faire encore, juste pour rassurer les gens, pour donner l'information nécessaire. All right?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, just one question. Is there a reason why we did the changes in the winter instead of like more?
Say, you know, ideally, in a perfect world, and I'll accept this question, in an ideal world, we would like to do it when the weather permits and all of this. But when a situation is brought to our attention, and once we analyze, once it's brought to the traffic committee's attention, and the traffic committee with all the experts decide a certain orientation for a sector, regardless of the time of season that it is, it has to be implemented because it's a safety issue. And when it's a safety issue that doesn't allow for people to park on that street particularly, we have to make sure that we do that as soon as possible. Now, would we have done it if the snowbanks were the way they were? Probably not, because how do you do that? But the weather permitted us to implement those changes at that time, as ideal maybe as it wasn't for a lot of the folks. But I understand what you're saying. We would have loved to have done it in the spring when people would have had that more visible. It would have been easier to adjust to the changes. I understand. But that wasn't the reality we were living with at that moment when we knew that that's what we had to do. Okay? Thank you, folks. Thank you. Monsieur Saint-Onge, on va à 10.03, que soit adopté avec le retrait de 40.08 de l'ordre du jour de la séance du Conseil d'arrondissement. Merci. Notre proposeur appuyeur.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 10.04. Que le procès verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil d'arrondissement tenue le 16 janvier 2023 à 19h soit approuvé tel que soumis aux membres du Conseil avant la présente séance et versé aux archives de l'arrondissement.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 15.01. Que soit adoptée une résolution appuyant la demande de participation au mouvement crisant des villes à travers le monde qui inviteront leurs citoyens à respecter l'heure de la Terre, Earth Hour, le samedi 25 mars de 2023 à 20h30. Ça me fait un proposeur appuyeur.
Je propose. J'appuie.
Et Mme Leroux, vous avez un commentaire.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le maire. Le samedi 25 mars 2023, à 20h30, la population de l'arrondissement et partout au Québec et au Canada sera à nouveau invitée à fermer les lumières pendant 1 heure. Ce geste se veut une déclaration en faveur de l'énergie et de la lutte contre les changements climatiques. Le Jour de la Terre est un événement qui a été créé à Sydney, en Australie, en 2007, où alors 2 millions de citoyens ont fermé leurs lumières pendant 1 heure en soirée. Ce geste a réduit les émissions à gaz à effet de serre de 25 000 tonnes et a encouragé les citoyens à parler de changement climatique. Nous comptons sur nos citoyens pour participer en grand nombre et nous vous rappellerons lors du prochain conseil cet événement. Donc, on Saturday, March 25th, 2023 at 8:30 p.m. The population of our borough and throughout Quebec and Canada will once again be invited to turn off the lights for 1 hour. This gesture is a declaration in favor of energy and fight against the climatic changes. Earth Day, it's an event from Sydney, Australia, that was placed in 2007. Over 2 million citizens turn off their lights for 1 hour in the evening. This gesture reduced greenhouse gas emission by 25,000 tons and encourage citizens to talk about climate change. We are counting on our citizens to participate in a large number. So we'll remind you next council to close your lights on the 25th of March.
Merci, Mme Leroux. Le 15-05, que soit proclamée la semaine du 13 au 17 février 2023 comme celle des journées de la persévérance scolaire, qui soit exprimée unanimement et publiquement la solidarité et le soutien envers les jeunes et envers l'ensemble des intervenants du réseau de l'éducation, et que soit appuyée la campagne des journées de la persévérance scolaire 2023 sur le thème « L'importance de l'entourage, nos gestes, un plus pour leur réussite », et que soient invités les élus à y participer. C'est le 15-02.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 20-01. Que le contrat SP 2022-17 soit accordé à BC2, Groupe Conseil Inc., ayant obtenu le plus haut pointage final au montant de sa soumission, soit 70 243, taxes incluses, pour des services professionnels en urbanisme pour la réalisation d'un outil réglementaire, Form-Based Code, pour le secteur de cœur identitaire Îlot-Saint-Jean dans l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro, et d'autoriser l'affectation de cette dépense à même le surplus 2023, conformément aux informations financières inscrites au dossier décisionnel sur le 20-01.
I propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 20-02. Que le Conseil accorde une contribution financière à 2268 pour l'année 2023 à l'organisme Vert Cité pour la gestion du programme de subvention de couches lavables pour bébés, de produits d'hygiène féminine durables et de produits d'hygiène personnelle durable pour le territoire de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro, imputer cette somme à même le budget de fonctionnement 2023, et que Mme Louise Impini, chef de division culture, bibliothèque et développement social, soit autorisée à signer la convention au nom de l'arrondissement, et que la résolution du Conseil d'arrondissement mentionnée, adoptée le 16 janvier 2023, soit abrogée.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Monsieur Langevin, avez-vous un commentaire sur ce dossier?
De remercier la cité de faire la promotion de ce programme, un programme qui finalement se veut à la fois un programme écologique, à la fois une façon de finalement réduire nos gaz à effet de serre, en justement faire en sorte que ces produits qui, de règle générale, se retrouvent dans nos sites d'enfouissement, qui sont presque pleins à ce qu'on entend en périphérie. Il y a absolument des efforts à faire, comme des petits gestes comme ceux-là, pour faire en sorte que on réduise notre empreinte, on réduise finalement ce qu'on finit par mettre dans nos matières résiduelles.
Merci, M. Langevin. Bien dit. Le 20-03.
Monsieur le maire, je dois déclarer un conflit d'intérêt.
Merci.
Moi également, Monsieur le maire.
Déclarer intérêt à Mme Talbot et M. Tarakjan sur le 20-03, M. Saint-Onge. Que soient versées des subventions provenant du budget de fonctionnement 2023 aux organismes à but non lucratif suivants pour la saison 2023 pour le montant indiqué en regard de chacun, totalisant 207 608. Que Mme Louise Impini, chef de division culture, bibliothèque et développement social, soit autorisée à signer les conventions entre, c'est pas correct, mais le nom de la ville, que M. Jason Richard, chef de division sport, loisirs et installations, soit autorisé à signer les conventions au nom de la ville. Pour les sports et loisirs, vous avez la liste des organismes avec les montants sur l'écran. Loisirs aînés, c'est la même chose. Culture et développement social, et comme j'ai dit, pour un total de 207 608 $, ça en prend un proposeur appuyeur.
Je propose et j'aurai une intervention.
J'appuie.
Je voulais juste dire que vous voyez maintenant le résultat d'un travail d'envergure de notre service encore sport, loisirs, développement social, culture, bibliothèque, selon notre politique de reconnaissance. C'est un modèle qui donne l'équité vraiment aux associations, les associations extraordinaires qui font un travail tous les jours pour notre communauté. It is the result of our recognition policy that the department and council approved, I believe, 2 years ago. And it provides subsidies, in this case, in an equitable way for the different organization offering a panoply of services. And not only are we proud of the fact that we're able to donate $207,000 tonight to these organizations that do extraordinary work in our community, but in all spheres of recreation, sports, and social development for our community that's in need. And for those volunteers that volunteer their time so preciously for these organizations, je les félicite parce qu'ils sont une extension de qu'est-ce qu'on fait à la ville pour le bénéfice de nos citoyens. Merci à tous et à toutes. Monsieur Langevin.
Oh, ça va, j'ai rien à ajouter. Vous avez pas mal volé mes mots.
Merci.
C'est bon.
Merci. Le 30-01. Que soit approuvée telle que soumise la reddition financière au montant de 237 313 pour la période du 26 novembre au 31 décembre 2022, ainsi que la liste des paiements par carte de crédit pour la période du 1er au 31 décembre 2022 au montant de 13 562 $.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 30-02. Que soit affectée une somme maximale de 148 900 $, taxes incluses, du fonds réservé pour fin de parc à l'année 2023 afin de financer rétroactivement au 1er janvier 2023 les achats pour la plantation d'arbres et de végétaux sur le territoire de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro.
I propose.
I concur.
Et encore une fois, je félicite l'équipe de M. Baudouin, surtout pour le travail avec les employés et les contracteurs pour la plantation des arbres. On a planté depuis notre arrivée des milliers et des milliers d'arbres sur le territoire, soit des terrains publics, mais aussi des terrains privés aussi chez les résidents. Bravo. 40-01. Que soit adopté tel que soumis le règlement mentionné modifiant le règlement CA 29001 sur la délégation de pouvoir aux fonctionnaires et employés de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro afin d'ajouter au chapitre 3 l'article 18 intitulé Virement des crédits et l'article 19 intitulé Disposition des biens.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. 40-02A, c'est un avis de motion et donné par le conseiller conseillère à l'inscription pour adoption à une séance subséquente du règlement mentionné modifiant le règlement CA 290010 concernant les nuisances et le bon ordre afin d'interdire l'immobilisation d'un véhicule sur la chaussée aux endroits où la signalisation interdit l'arrêt.
Je donne l'avis de motion.
Merci. Le 40-02B, c'est exactement la même chose, mais l'adoption de ce règlement.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 40-03. That be adopted as submitted the second draft bylaw CA 290040-55, amending zoning bylaws CA 290040 for the purpose of prohibiting the replacement of student residences and houses housed for retired persons who are not self-sufficient and collective dwellings age 4 by another use of the housing family except by social and community housing building to publish a public notice on the borough's website. C'est le 40-03.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. 40-04. Que soit adopté le règlement CA 290040-56, modifiant le règlement de zonage CA 290040 aux fins d'y apporter divers ajustements et trait aux dispositions sur les piscines résidentielles qu'un avis public soit publié sur le site Internet de l'arrondissement. C'est le 40-04.
Je propose.
Et j'appuie.
Merci. Le 40-05A, c'est un avis de motion est donné par le conseiller conseillère à l'inscription pour adoption à une séance subséquente du règlement CA 290040-57, modifiant le règlement de zonage CA 290040 aux fins d'ajouter l'usage habitation unifamiliale H3 dans la zone H2 376 ainsi que les normes qui s'y rattachent.
Je donne l'avis de motion.
Merci. Le 40-05B, c'est exactement le même dossier, mais l'adoption.
Je propose.
Et j'appuie.
Merci. Le 40-06. That be adopted and submitted bylaw CA 290040-58, modifying the zoning bylaw CA 290040 for the purpose of adding the use retail sale of tires, batteries, and accessories in the zone C4 280 to publish public notice on the borough's website.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 40-07, que soit adopté tel que soumis. Le second, projet de règlement CA 290040-59, modifiant le règlement de zonage CA 290040 aux fins de retirer l'usage habitation multifamiliale le H3 de la zone H1 4 239, qu'un avis public soit publié sur le site Internet de l'arrondissement. C'est le 4007.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4008 était retiré. Le 4009. Que soit adopté le règlement CA 29-128-1, modifiant le règlement de contrôle intérimaire CA 29-0128, limitant les usages, les normes de lotissement et les normes de stationnement extérieur dans le secteur de boulevard Saint-Charles de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro afin de retirer l'obligation de fournir des cases de stationnement souterrains pour un nouveau bâtiment résidentiel lorsque le nouveau stationnement ne sont pas prévus sur le site et de réduire la superficie minimale d'un terrain dans le cadre d'un projet de nouvelle construction d'une habitation collective H4, qu'un avis public soit publié sur le site Internet de l'arrondissement. C'est le 4009.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4010, que soit adoptée la résolution pour le PP 2022-002 visant à autoriser au 4775, 4777 et 4779 boulevard Lalande, sur le lot mentionné du cadastre du Québec, l'implantation d'un bâtiment résidentiel de 3 logements, et ce, nonobstant toute disposition contraire inscrite au règlement de zonage CA 29-0040.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4011. Que soit modifié le règlement d'emprunt CA 29-00, les numéros mentionnés, en remplaçant les montants de l'emprunt décrété par ces règlements par les montants indiqués sur la colonne Ville-Emprunt, qui est le B de l'annexe A, jointe au dossier que l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro demande au ministère de l'Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation d'annuler dans ses registres les soldes résiduels mentionnés et qu'une copie certifiée conforme de la présente résolution soit transmise au ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation. C'est le 4011.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Ça nous amène à la fin, le 70-01. C'est la levée de la séance.
I propose.
Et j'appuie.
Merci à toutes et à tous présents et les gens qui nous regardent par web diffusion. Merci d'être ici avec nous ce soir et on se voit dans un mois, au mois de mars. Peut-être avant, mais au mois de mars. Merci et bonsoir.